7 days ago, I formed part of a delegation that visited Washington, a delegation that was put together by the central bank to address the vexing issue of de-risking. De-risking, as you know, has been a problem throughout the Caribbean, and in fact, throughout the world, where based on money laundering and terrorist financing regulations that countries have to abide by, that the regulations have been put together in such a way that they are now consequences that nobody has foreseen. To meet the AML CFT regulations requirements, when they are not met, banks are fined substantially for not meeting the regulations. The unintended consequences has been that certain banks are pulled out altogether on the basis that they don't want to take the risk of being exposed to these astronomical fines. And some countries, and I can mention Belize, has been left completely without correspondent banking services, making it virtually impossible for Belize, not having a correspondent bank, to be able to make cross-border payments to pay for their imports. That is a stab of death, because if you depend on imports that you have to pay for and you're unable to pay for them, then you will not be able to order equipment, goods, and other items that you need to keep your economy running. Bank of America pulled out of Belize. Belize now is surviving only that payments are being processed by the central bank, which is quite unusual, until this problem could be resolved. Here in St. Martin, as well as other islands in the Caribbean, the same threat exists. In fact, some banks have already indicated to certain customers, close your accounts, as I've reported previously. If this grows to the situation that we now experience in Belize, St. Martin imports virtually everything and will not be able, without having a correspondent bank processing those payments, be able to import. The problem has the intention of the entire Caribbean, and this delegation that I mentioned to you went to Washington. It consisted of the Minister of Finance of Curacao, the President of the Central Bank and his supporting staff, and we met with the Department of Justice of the United States, the Treasury of the United States, the State Department of the United States. We met with the Cato Institute, and we met with representatives of the White House to plead our case that the unintended consequences, as far as AML and CFT is concerned, could result in St. Martin, Curacao, Aruba, falling in the same situation as Belize. This is a serious matter, and a matter which also Mexico faced. And the United States was able to make some exceptions for Mexico and find a solution to be able to avoid a situation like that occurring in Mexico. We are substantially compliant as a country with all of the AML CFT requirements. And based on that, we're asked these departments we visited that we would like to also make the arrangements similar to that of Mexico for the Dutch Caribbean islands. And I'm pleased to report that we did not get a negative reaction, and that steps, as we speak, are being taken to see if a similar arrangement could apply for the Dutch Caribbean islands. The Caribbean islands is a total through the CCF, the CDCC, as well as ECLAC, also has this issue high on its agenda, as I have reported before. I am pleased also to report, you can recall, I recently identified the fact that for some reason or the other, different to other islands in the Caribbean, we can't seem to find a St. Martin image in certain institutions on our island, including the prosecution department, the judge, and when we look at our hotels, you can't find that image either. I'm pleased to report that a couple of days ago, I met the chief prosecutor, Mr. Tom Mann, and in a discussion with him referring to the fact that I had said that we need to reach this goal either by dialogue and evolution, if not revolution, that he reported to me that the prosecution department has a program in place and right now has someone that has been identified who they are putting through a training process with the aim for that person to become a local prosecutor on St. Martin. I was very pleased to hear that. Not only is it a program aimed at this person alone, but it's going to be an ongoing program, he shared with me, that will, in a couple of years, guarantee that there is a local face as far as the prosecution department is concerned. And I applaud the prosecution department in embarking on this program, and I look forward to other institutions, including the court, as well as our main hotels, in following the same path. These things are not going to fall out of the sky. You have to put a plan in place. You have to identify people. And with the plan and the training, you aim at having those faces in those positions in X number of years. I hope everybody get on board with this idea because, as I said, it's going to happen either through dialogue and evolution, and nobody wants it to happen via revolution. Finally, two other items. This Friday, the Department of Finance, the Ministry of Finance, is organizing a tax summit at the Westin Hotel. The tax summit will last all day long, and it's basically for parties involved in the taxing and assessment and auditing fields with the aim to talk about the problems that we're experiencing with the tax department, and short-term, mid-term, long-term, how we're going to address them, because they need to be addressed. We no longer can ignore them, and we have to go for efficiency. If not, we will continue to see a decline in our income and revenues on an annual basis. I also want to announce now that next week, Thursday, we'll be having a town hall. And the town hall meeting, organized by the Ministry of Finance, will deal with, or will have as a team, those or he who thinks about the future lives it today. In other words, we need to let the future dictate our actions and behavior today. If not, the future will pass us by. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Gibson, for your opening presentation this morning. I'd like to now invite the Minister of Public Health, Social Development and Labor, the Honorable Emile Lee, to address you.
Thank you, Cedric. Good morning, colleagues, media, and those listening by internet, television, or radio. Yesterday, I just returned from a trip to the Netherlands. The main objective of the trip was to build support for the new hospital. So, as minister, I led a delegation that included Mr. Kees Klarenbeek, director of the medical center, Mr. Henk de Zeeuw, he's from corporate finance from KPMG, Mr. Perry Geerlings, who's director of the cabinet for the ministry plenipotentiary, and we met with Minister Plasterk, who's Minister of Interior and Kingdom Relations, along with his director, Erwin Arkenbout, and a Mr. Rob Sardeman, who's project leader from the Ministry for Health, Wellness, and Sports. So previously, when Minister Plasterk was here, comments were made in the media that based on a solid business plan for a new hospital, together with the approval of the CFT, that the Netherlands would be willing to consider financing the new hospital as well as offering technical assistance to the process if required. So we thought it would be prudent. In this process, we've just completed the business plan. This is about 2 weeks ago. So we presented an updated business plan to the minister and updated him as well on the process in terms of how that business plan was generated. And that starts with the tripartite, which actually began in 2015, so before my time, and we've continued that work of building consensus in terms of what a new hospital should look like. And so we've made that case to the minister in terms of really trying to bring across that the hospital is a very practical hospital. It's been designed inclusively, meaning that together with all of our partners, meaning family physicians, specialists, SZV, government, of course, and all other relevant stakeholders, the hospital, of course, SMMC included. So together, with the help of consultants, we've designed the terms of reference, which have laid out what the scope of the new hospital would look like. And I dare say I think it's a very practical, a very pragmatic design. It is not a over-the-top and therefore overly expensive design. The other thing we've done, of course, is to take a look at partnerships. One of the points that the Netherlands is particularly concerned about is there's a number of new medical institutions being built in the Caribbean, Curacao, for example, and what is the level of cooperation going to be between the different hospitals. And as I've mentioned previously, we're working on a cooperation agreement with the French side as well. I think we share a small island, and synchronizing and coordinating development of healthcare services is only logical. And so that was an important part of the process in terms of deciding what the new hospital would eventually look like. So we made this presentation to the minister, and I think the reactions to it were very positive. They were impressed with the open process as well, the tendering process, as well as the way the terms of reference were developed. And we explained, I explained, that one of the goals of the tripartite was to ensure that the integrity of the new hospital would be immune or, let's say, resilient to the winds of political change. It's our belief that the people of St. Martin need a quality hospital, that if our goal is to deliver quality health care that's affordable close to home, we need to ensure that the project is immune to political change. And so we've tried to do things in as open and transparent and inclusive a manner as possible. So, for example, when we were asked for example, a copy of the terms of reference, we had no problem to share it because we're open in the process. And we hope that through that, the integrity and therefore the quality of health care for the future of the country and for the people is secured, because I don't believe that quality health care should be able to be victimized by politics. We also explained, obviously, that Seba and Statia do depend on the quality of health care here. One of the Netherlands' concern, as is the concern of many countries in the world, is the ever-increasing cost of health care. And for them, the cost of health care for the Bess Islands is obviously a big concern. And so I believe it's a win-win partnership, that their support for the medical center, from our estimations, would actually, for the first 10 years, translate into a 6 million guilder savings per year, which obviously gives the capacity for the hospital to provide more services to the people based on those savings. But we also did point out that we have other financing opportunities as well. We are looking at the possibility of SZV financing via local banks, and one of the requirements for the turnkey developers is to provide a financing package as well. So I think the fact that we went to the Netherlands with a very solid business plan that had multiple financing options, I think came across very, very positively. I think it's also important we mentioned that expansion of our healthcare services also represents diversifying our economy. Minister of Finance has been very good in terms of pointing this out, that this will create a number of new jobs for the country, and not only low-level jobs, these are going to be jobs in high-level, well-educated, high-paying positions. So I think this is an opportunity to work together with the Education Department to make sure that we're producing our own people that can take these positions when the hospital does eventually open. And the other point that we did make was a request or a discussion about technical assistance, because as we look at the financing, it is well conceivable that health care reform is going to be part of the discussion in terms of how we ultimately finance the entire system. The other topic, I received a report from the labor mediator regarding reorganization of resorts of the world. In March, the labor mediator, Mr. Raphael Bozeman, was requested by the union to assist in the negotiations they were having together with the resorts of the world. The labor mediator agreed to get involved and had various meetings with the parties, including SZV, and he's presented me a short update since I've noticed that this is a topic of discussion. The reorganization entailed the establishment of at least 2 entities under Resorts of the World, one for the hotel operators and one for the hotel operations and one for the casino operations. All employees of Resorts of the World will be transferred. They will either resign or be reemployed to one of the new companies. Resorts of the World and the new companies guarantee the accrued rights of the workers, including any possible rights to cessantia. No dismissal request was necessary, as all parties agreed to the terms of the transfer. A transfer agreement was prepared and signed by all parties, including Resorts of the World, new companies, and union. SZV was informed of the undertaking and the transfer agreement sent to them, which they acknowledge and have received and taken note of and will keep on file. To further secure payments of the workers in case of bankruptcy of one of the new companies, Resorts of the World has signed a guarantee letter to pay such should SZV not honor the workers' claims. And the side letter of guarantee, as well as templates of the individual labor agreements to be signed by the employees, are attached to the transfer agreement and forms part of such. And both Resorts of the World as well as the union WICSU at PSU have held informative sessions informing their workers, members of the undertaking. In conclusion, the parties, Resorts of the World, Maho Hotel Operations BV, and CM&M Services NV signed the transfer agreement on June 1st, 2016. The employees are all in the process of signing their individual agreements. All accrued rights of the workers have been secured. There will be no layoffs. There was no need to request permission for dismissal, as there will be no dismissals. Parties have dealt with this matter in good faith as far as can be ascertained. And I just want to add that I've been in fairly regular contact with the labor mediator and have full confidence in his capacity and what he's doing with the situation. Third, lastly, it's just a quick update on Zika. Presently, as of June 13th, we have 20 confirmed cases of Zika. In the event, we've hired someone to help in CPS, and we're working on our communications plan, and I've spoke about this working together with Curacao, and as a matter of fact, the minister from Aruba is coming in this week for IHR conference, and we will have meetings as well to talk about how we cooperate, because really much of the war against Zika, dengue, or chikungunya is really about controlling breeding grounds for mosquitoes. And so we will be continuing to share best practices and resources, communication platforms that have been developed jointly between us, so we can better tackle the mosquito breeding grounds. But as we enter into hurricane season, it also means rainy season, and we ask our citizens to become more vigilant about just policing their own neighborhood, making sure that they are not contributing to the problem. And if there's a need for assistance, if they want to reach out to CPS, we do have a hotline, which is, again, 550-2255 or 550-CALL. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Lee, for your opening presentation. At this time, I'd like to invite the Minister of Education, Culture, Youth, and Sports, the Honorable Severia Jacobs, to address you.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Good morning to my colleagues here in the Council, as well as the media present and all following this broadcast via all forms of media. This morning, I would like to inform that the business orientation placement program continues this year as usual. This is the 18th year of this program, also known as the BOP. It's coordinated by the Youth and Social Cultural Development Departments and is dedicating to placing exam and pre-exam students of the secondary schools, as well as students who are functioning at tertiary level, to 4 to 6 weeks summer job experience during the months of July and August. This year, the program, the BOP program, marking its 18th anniversary, is scheduled to take place from the 4th to the 29th of July 2016. Today, June 15th, we'll start the training and orientation sessions for those students. So at the USM from 2 p.m. in the afternoons from today, June 15th to June 17th. So that is the BOP program, and this is a great opportunity for students to take experience in the work field, as well as to give employers the opportunity to utilize the youth, get their perspective, and give them an opportunity to progress. So I encourage any new businesses that would like to come on board with this to contact the youth department in the person of Ms. Faye Arnell or via their Facebook page. Also, starting today, the Caribbean Football Under-20 Qualifier Tournament will be hosted on St. Martin. St. Martin is proud to be able to support this initiative that the Soccer Association has been awarded this esteemed pleasure to be hosting one of the pools, which hosts Cuba, Puerto Rico, Antigua and Barbuda, as well as St. Martin. So this is the Caribbean Football Union, CFU, Under-20, which starts this evening. Other pools will be played in other Caribbean islands, such as Trinidad and Tobago, Haiti, and the Dominican Republic, with the semifinals and finals taking place in Curacao. The kickoff for this tournament here on St. Martin will be this evening at 6, with Antigua and Barbuda going up against Cuba. In the second game, St. Martin will be playing against Puerto Rico. So I take this opportunity to welcome our guests to St. Martin. This is a wonderful opportunity for sports tourism on St. Martin, and I look forward to the community supporting the St. Martin Soccer Under-20 team as they attempt to make this win in this pool so that they can progress to the semifinals. This game will be at 8 p.m. tonight, and the games will continue until Sunday, June 19th. All evening games, so go out there and support our local boys as they endeavor to move to the next level. Congratulations once again to the Soccer Association. Second time in a year to be organizing an international event. Also, lastly, I'd like to remind the general public of the Emancipation Day celebrations coming up. This is our 5th year celebrating Emancipation Day on St. Martin. It is a public holiday, and it was established by the Parliament of St. Martin since becoming a country within the kingdom. It is a day to promote cultural resilience of overcoming all odds under the worst circumstances. We will be doing this year under the theme, Remember When, and I would like to cordially invite one and all to come out and enjoy the celebrations. They will begin from June 30th with the reenactment of the Freedom Run, which will be hosted by the NIA. And for more details on this, you can stay tuned. We will be sending out also written press releases and posting the schedule of events. But of course, we will have the ecumenical services in the morning, as well as a cultural manifestation in the afternoon at the Emilio Wilson Estate. So I do look forward to all of us coming out and taking part in this 5th celebration of freedom from slavery, Emancipation Day, right here on St. Martin. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Jacobs, for your presentation this morning. If you're just joining us, you're watching the Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, June 15th, 2016. I'd like to open the floor for any questions the media might have. Bibi Haj Shaw, SMN News Online, you have the floor.
Good morning, Cedric, and good morning, ministers. Minister Gibson, good morning. My first question to you would be, what is your reaction based on the statements made by the chairman of the CFT, Edge Backer, regarding the budget of 2016 and the shortfall within the first quarter?
Well, thank you very much. I don't think it's so much a statement made by Arthur Backer. It's a report that we sent to them of the performance in terms of revenues that we have generated for the first 3 months of this year and the consequences of that. That report shows that we're running behind 14 million compared to last year. What has not been shown as yet, because that comes actually in the second quarter, is that the 4th and the 5th month of this year has shown a substantial increase over income for the previous year. So apparently the shortfall in the first 3 months of this year had some kind of a delay reason that we have not put our finger on it yet, but it has caught up somewhat. I also would like to mention to you that what you see also is that the projected expenditures has been 7 million less than was projected. So at this point in time, although we have some serious decline in economic activities, from a budget point of view, there is no reason to panic. And I have good reason to believe that at the end of the road, we will be meeting the revenues projected in the budget so that there is no deficit being generated as a result of not collecting sufficient revenues. That does not mean to say that there is no problems. There is, if you look at the picture, a strange phenomena. namely that TOT income has reduced considerably. On the other hand, you see that wage taxes have increased considerably. Now, those two things really don't go hand in hand. It's two opposing directions that you need to figure out. Why is that? Because if you have less income, you're not going to go and hire more people. But if you have more wage taxes being collected, it means that more people are being hired. So we need to have a longer period to be able to analyze all of these numbers before we can give you a definitive assessment as to what's going on in the economy. It doesn't mean to say that the economy, and that's not the case only here, but worldwide, in the Caribbean, is under decline. And I invite you to come to our town hall meeting next week, Thursday, to hear more about the reasons behind that.
Thank you, Minister Gibson. I turn now my second question to Minister Kirindango. It's a two-part question. Can you give us an update on the investigation regarding the IND director, Mr. Udo Aaron, who has been officially suspended? And with regards to the suspension and investigation, now that we know that Mr. Aaron has been suspended, can you tell me why the acting director, who was also involved in this incident at PJIE, was also not suspended, knowing that there is an investigation?
Good morning. At this moment, the Lounge Association National Detective is conducting the investigation. Last evening, I had contacted the prosecutor office. The investigation is ongoing. I don't have more details about the situation from the investigation regarding Udo. The question about the second person you're talking about, at the moment that I received the investigation, the information that something has happened against the rules, I asked for information. In the information that I have received at that time, no other names were mentioned, only the name from the director. That doesn't mean that there are not other people involved, but at that moment of taking the decision, that was the only name I had in the information that I have received. So during the investigation, if other names pop up and I have to take any measure against someone, it will be taken.
Thank you, Minister. I'll come back
Bibi.
to you.
Thank you very much for your questions. And you can get the follow-up if we have the time, allowing, of course, if we have a follow-up round, if you have those questions, we can
You
also
didn't hear
pose
what I was
those.
going to say.
But you have already had your 3 questions, so let's
Yes.
proceed due to time. Andrew Dick, the Daily Herald, you have the floor. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Morning, Minister Kirindango. Question about the ACPAL program. He was going to give me more information about it. How far are we on that?
Okay. The ACPOL, at this moment, we are trying on our own force, having conversation to see how we can go further without the stackers that they have pulled out. I don't have any definite answer, but we are trying around searching to see what we can do at this moment.
Okay, but can we sustain it without the ACPAL program, with the program that we have now? I mean, I'm sure that having the communication of all the other islands is also important, or...
It is not nice to give information about other islands before I spoke with them, but it is true we are in conversation with the other islands to see how they can help us, but not only in the kingdom, but also out of the kingdom.
Okay, but so now the money is owed to the company then. What happens to that?
Sorry?
The money is owed to them? Will St. Martin then pay off the debt, or what's going to happen to it?
We are also in conversation about that, where to get that money from. It is because we don't have the money, we have this problem. And next to paying, we have another situation. We have to sign an overeenkomst, an agreement. And by signing this agreement, I'm going to bind St. Martin for years for an amount of $425,000. And here in the Minister of Justice, of Finance, it is difficult to do this.
Could I just interject, if I may? The premise that we owe money is wrong. You
Okay.
should not leave with the idea that we have an agreement and we agreed to pay, and that there's a backlog and we did not pay, and that's why this thing was cut off. There is no agreement in terms of payment. Quite the contrary. The agreement was we will have our own information system, and that has not been executed up to this day. So I just wanted to make sure that that particular point is cleared up, as opposed to giving St. Martin the fault that St. Martin owed and St. Martin did not pay, and that's the reason why this occurred. It's totally erroneous.
Thank you.
Andrew, thank you very much. Alida Singh, the Daily Herald, you have the floor. Okay, back to you, Bibi, you have the floor.
Thank you, Cedric. Minister Karen Dango, regarding the prison, can you tell me if there was any specific strengthening with regards to management, especially what's taking place at the prison? Can you tell us what was done? I don't expect you to tell me all the holes that were plugged, but how did you actually strengthen the management of the prison?
No, at this moment, since, if I don't mistake myself, 2 months ago, I brought in Mr. Martina as a change manager to strengthen the director of the prison. I know that more things have to be done, but without enough money, it is difficult to do everything I wish to do. But next, Mr. Martina, at this moment, I haven't brought in any other person. We are going to start with a project, but that project is just the entrance of the prison. Further, nothing else for strengthening the management team.
Thank you, Minister Karen Dango. Minister Lee, I heard a lot about your trip to the Netherlands and the new hospital, but I'm wondering if you have ordered an investigation into what transpired at the St. Martin Medical Center and SZV regarding the shooting patient or the victim, suspect, whatever you want to call him, at the Westin Don Beach that took place 2 Sundays ago, where one of the victims suspect was misdiagnosed, claiming that there was a bullet in his head. Turned out that he had only a fractured skull. He was not registered at SZV, but airvacked to Santo Domingo, at whose expense? I need to know if there is an investigation into that.
Great question. I will look into it. Thank you, Bibi.
Am I here updating you on what's going on the island?
Oh, I saw it, but I haven't had an opportunity to meet with the department head since I returned yesterday afternoon. So.
Okay, recently the Member of Parliament, Emmanuel, sent out a press release as well as a letter coming from Dumaho with mass laying off. I know you are we're part of the hotel industry, and like our current minister is calling on locals to get top position jobs, and people are now being laid off. This is something I talked to you about many times. Where are you on this?
You know, again, I think in the statement, I think it was fairly clear that all of the people that are currently working at Maho are moving from one company to 2 new companies. All the rights of those employees are transferring with them. I'm not sure what the composition of those workers are in terms of, you know, what positions, et cetera. So, I mean, this is something that the that the mediator is working on, but whoever was working there now is being transferred over. So I don't see any issue from that sense.
Thank you very much for your questions, Bibi. Andrew?
Yes, Minister Kirindongo, just for clarity's sake, how vulnerable are we without the ACPOL system then? 'Cause-
We are.
Okay, we are.
We are. I accept that we are. But it's difficult to say how. But we are vulnerable.
Okay, and Minister Jacobs, the demolition of the Prince William Alexander School, how soon? Do you have a date as yet when that will happen?
Good morning. It's in the process. It's been approved. And so Vromi will take the necessary steps, and as soon as it will take place, it will be announced. I don't have a definite date at this time.